Yeah.
Now,
I want to actually, to end off with found footage and segue into my TV and all that, there was a show in the 90s called Tales from the Crypt. Personally, I find it was a little campy at times, but overall, I really did love it. There's an episode called Television Terror. It takes place, it's basically, there's a camera crew, and this guy's doing a big, like, Halloween special for his Unsolved Murder show. He ends up staging this big thing in an old house in which this woman killed a bunch of men for their, like, a bunch of wealthy men for their fortunes. He goes into this house, and it does a really good job of building suspense. Because throughout the whole thing, it cuts from him to the people in the news van, so it's not 100% found footage. It goes back to him, and often there isn't much, like, it builds suspense in a subtle fashion. And by the end, it reaches a point where there's a lull. There are just a few minutes in which nothing's happening, and people don't, there's a commercial, and people don't, they're trying to figure out, like, where they're going to go in this house to film next. And while that commercial's happening, that's when everything picks up. Blood starts pouring out of these doors. These, like, just gored up people start, this is one exception, by the way, to my whole something has to be, like, this is an exception because of how this episode worked, but you see, like, a couple of these corpses and everything, and it gets to, like, the reveal at the end is what really hits with this, because the guy's trying to escape this house and everything, but he can't get out. He ends up, in a desperate attempt to escape, fling himself out a window, getting trapped around a curtain, and on live TV, hanging himself.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, but, I mean, if the show is in the 90s and you haven't seen it, that's not our problem, so...
Yeah. And
sorry, not sorry.
Another thing along with this is just... I'm not going to get into the character interactions or why he stayed in the house after all this, because it's explained in the episode, but it's just... This is something that just... There's a reason for them to be going in. There's a good reason. The ghost having everything isn't fully explained as to why they're there, how they're there, or any of that. There's the briefest of explanations by this priest guy that's on site. You know, he's there just to build, like, suspense and all that, because the guy who's running the show is a complete dick. But it's just, it does it well. It's considered one of the best episodes of that, like, of the show, and it manages to do almost everything really well. And this is an example of not only what we brought before, but where television sometimes can be just one up your big box, huge budget horror films. Because aside from Tales from the Crypt, there are shows like Tales from the Dark Side, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, stuff like this, where the writers and the people involved cared about their projects. The people running the show were also the people writing for it. And these were, like, they would put as much effort as they could into this, and they never really cared about how it would turn out, about what the ratings would be on these episodes or on this show. Granted, there were bad episodes, but it never got to the point where it was doing things to make money, because it was never that it was never really that oriented towards it.
All right, now let's skip to. So I have that one other question for you.
Yeah, sorry, I completely went off track.
It doesn't matter. Like, what we're complaining about here is not going to be solved.
Yeah.
Like, plenty of people have complained about it before. I personally think the horror genre needs to just step back, bring thrillers back, bring me some suspense. But here's my question for you, and here's how we know that what we're doing means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The new overnight sensation hit franchise of games, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. Now,
Five
here's
Nights
something
at Freddy's.
where...
Five Nights at Freddy's was confirmed for a
film.
Film.
Now, let's first look at the games, because this is something where I don't know your opinions, but I kind of want to bring mine up so you can build off yours. I personally think that it's a bizarre concept. They build suspense, which is... I'm not 100% supporting these games, but they managed to build suspense. Throughout the whole game, you're put into the control of this security camera operator, and you only have a certain ability to defend yourself, and by the fourth game, I think, you've lost that ability. Like, what you've got left to you is almost insignificant.
You run to 3 different doors and look.
Yeah, and even, like, you feel more defenseless because instead of the security station, it's a child's bedroom. But anyway, my problem, yes, it's a jump scare-oriented game. It does manage to build suspense, which is good, but some could argue the same for Slender, which I think is one of the worst and most overhyped games in existence. But to get to 5 minutes of praise, what I do like about it, though a little generic, is the backstory. The stuff that's there in the background throughout the films, which, again, is not films, games, sorry. Throughout the games, there's this whole story around it, the Bite of 87, all that sort of stuff, and it is somewhat interesting. After a while, it's not the most interesting concept out there, but it's still pretty good. I don't see why they would want to make a film out of it when the games already exist and give you more than a film ever could. When you get into the film, that eliminates the sense of suspense, because you're not the person in danger anymore. You're not the person who's in control of the security guard. You're watching it all. You're just sitting there and watching. So it eliminates that. The backstories, it might be what they focus on, but even then, it'll make it blatant, and they'll probably throw something in to spoil it, but I honestly don't know. But yeah, to point out the flaws of the game, it's a jump-scare-oriented game, and it's incredibly overhyped. But there are some good things about it. It builds suspense, and it has an interesting backstory.
I like the first couple games. I think the new one is stupid.
Like it's you're
in the child's bedroom.
Mm.
I'm gonna agree with you on the plot. The plot's interesting.
No, I will say that 2 games maximum. They didn't need 3 or 4. They could have ended with 3. I've watched some people summing up the backstory. It could have ended with 3. They didn't need 4.
Yeah, the backstory is interesting, and I mean, animatronics. Yeah, you can see where that would be scary. The first couple games, though, are the ones where it's, suspenseful. You're looking through all the cameras to find these...
Mm-hmm. And by the third one, you have to manage a ton of things at once, including, your own oxygen level and all that.
But and that one's probably the best one, in my opinion. But, I mean, it is jump scares, so I'm worried that they're going to overuse that.
Yeah.
Especially because
however,
in a movie you can't kill the character and have them respawn, so they're going to use jump scares and somehow have them get away.
Yeah.
What? I mean,
or as I said, they're probably they might also just make the film about the backstory, which, in a way, are you done with your?
No, that's it's an interesting concept, but I'm not rooting for this movie. Please just scrap it.
My thing is, to get to the film, if they focus on the backstory, it will make the games less interesting, in a way. Because not only is the backstory being given out blatantly, because I'm willing to bet they aren't going to integrate it through dialogue and background stuff like the games did. They're going to probably reveal everything outright. God forbid they give narration in the beginning of the film. But, it's just... If they give everything outright, it not only discredits the games, but it discredits the film, and it just makes the whole thing less, in a way. It's just... But yeah, my last thing, because we've covered big budget, we've covered television and gaming. I kind of want to go on to internet.
Alright.
Internet horror, I've talked about Marble Hornets. There's also Everyman Hybrid. These cover a subgenre of internet horror, which in itself is a subgenre, called ARGs, or alternate reality games, which basically, these stretch across YouTube, video sharing sites, social media, some even use real-life coordinates and things. These involve people in the experience, and these build interesting stories, and are usually quite enjoyable. But there's also a problem with these where they become generic. You get somewhere... After Marble Hornets came out, Everyman Hybrid came out. These both have Slender Man as a main... Well, the operator as a main central point. There are 4 or 5 other ARGs that do the same thing, but worse. And you get into... No, you're going to see a theme here. You get into internet horror through the form of creepypasta, through the form of just short stories on the internet. These can be good or bad. Often, a good story will come out, and there will be a lot of people that want to copy its style, but with slightly different subject. For example, there was a story called Ben Drowned, which is basically a haunted video game, which is a surprisingly effective story. That came out. After that, there was a wave of generic follow-ups to this story, which often just did nothing if not made this other story worse by comparison. You've got your other sections such as your journal-type stories, which are in the same way as found footage, where often these won't make sense. Like, this is something I can even bring up with with H.P. Lovecraft sometimes, where, why are you writing about your death in a journal? Get up and fight back, you dumb bastard. It's like, and this is the obvious plot hole, but my main thing is, there's good and there's bad. One of my personal favorites is Psychosis, which I feel captures what I want in a horror production very well, aside from its ending. The story follows a man who's basically spent a few days in isolation, like, working and all that. And after he's done all this, he ends up getting a missed call, which leads to an email, which is basically, it's this weird, like, spam email type thing that warns about, like, he shouldn't trust anyone, and it eventually gets to his imagination overtaking him. This leads to a point where he's convinced he is the last human in existence. Now, I'm not going to spoil the ending in this, but where he basically begins to believe he's the last human in existence, and begins to take extreme measures whether or not to prove his fact without leaving his apartment, because he feels it's the only safe place left. I won't spoil the ending, as I really recommend checking this story out, because it's really well written. There's a reason it's on the top of a lot of people's creepypasta lists. But its ending is a little less than you would hope for. But I find it really does capture what I would want in the horror genre. It builds suspense, it builds paranoia, it, for the most part, leaves questions unanswered, and it's not being made to make money. It's not being made to it's not being made to fit a quota. It's being made because the guy who wrote it thought it would be interesting to release online and wanted to see what people would react to in terms of the story. So, I just feel that, in my personal opinion, the horror genre has its ups and its downs. You've got, again, my opinion, you've got horror films out there that are great. You've got horror films out there that are just, they exist simply to pull in a profit. And it is what it is.
Alright. Now, here's what I think. There are fans, or here's my question to you. There are fans of these movies regardless of our opinions.
Yep.
The Paranormal Activity fan base is phenomenal. Here's my question to you. Nothing changes. These movies stay the exact same way they are.
Yep.
Would you think that it would be best for the horror genre to take a leave of absence, or to continue as they are now?
Now, what I think, to use the horror genre to answer the question, in the 1980s, slasher films were the big thing. You had Halloween, you had Friday the 13th, you had Nightmare on Elm Street. These were big. Slasher films were really popular. As the 80s went on, they became less popular. Into the 90s, no one wanted to see them, and they were failing. Couple years break, and in 1990, could be 4, could be 6, I might be wrong about this, I think 1996, Scream came out. This film was relatively meta. It could have been more meta, could have been a little more referencey toward the horror genre, but I feel it was referencey without being satire. And it brought back somewhat the slasher genre, but it built on it with other horror concepts. So I think, yes, a leave of absence for the horror genre is a good idea for a couple of years. Give writers time to just calm down, to leave it for a while. You could fill the spot with more, maybe more mystery or suspense, maybe a new version of... we've got Sherlock. You see how popular that is.
Yeah.
That sort of genre could use some more film attention.
All right. So my opinion goes the same way. Like, scrap horror for a while. Bring back the thrillers. Bring back movies like The Shining that would scare you shitless.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't need jump scares. You just needed people to shit their pants. All right. Well, Nick, do you have anything to add before we sign off? No? Didn't think so.
Don't you think he's looking a bit thin?
Yeah. He's not very talkative.
No. Bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Okay.
God knows I love his voice.
It's alright now. We'll get through this.
Yeah. Alright. Well, thanks for watching. I don't really care if you like the videos. Comment, though. I mean...
Yeah,
we'd love to hear
your feedback. What you think of the horror genre. What you think we should cover. Because this is our Halloween special.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to generate a bit of a discussion, because Josh and I have polarizing opinions on this film. I would very much like to hear what your thoughts are on Joss Whedon's 2012 film Cabin in the Woods, which attempts to be a very meta, it's more of a commentary film, really, but I want to hear your opinions on it, what you think of it, those sorts of things, just to build a bit of a discussion in the comments.
Yeah. Very different opinions.
Yep.
I hate it. Now, that's all the time we have. We went over our last 2 episode time by a lot.
I think we did.
But, that's just how much we love you. We don't care about you. We don't know you. Who are you? We like what we do, though.
Yep.
We like movies. We like...
Hey, maybe at some point we will cover Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
It won't be this week.
Yeah. Leave a comment. Because tell us what you would like us to discuss. Ask us questions, and maybe next time Nick will be able to come.
Yeah, we gotta get in the necromancy to bring him back then.
Yeah, we'll have AJ bring him back from the dead.
Yeah, well, we can leave him there for the next one, right?
Yeah,
he'll be fine. No one uses this place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well.
So thank you for viewing.
Thank you for watching. Again, this is the Nerd Table. Go ahead and subscribe. I'll hunt you down if you don't.
Like, comment, subscribe. Comment especially.
Yeah, because we do really want to hear your feedback.
Yeah.
But that's all the time we have. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.